is Moss from Investor Partner Group coming in live today in relation to how to pick. If you want to buy something and it's not a forever home, then do not. Hello, Facebook family and friends. How are you today? Today, we are going to talk about why even high cash flow positive property is not inflation or crash proof when interest rates are rising this fast. And we'll look at a few examples, in discussing this topic. Now, for those who don't know me, this is Moss from Investor Partner Group. I help create sustainable property portfolios without sacrificing lifestyle. We provide a whole ecosystem when it comes to property investing, let it be education, buyer's agency, property advisory, property development, tax, SMSF, and business structures advisory. Now, let's get straight into the topic. So, why do I think that even high positive cash flow properties are not crash proof? And why do I think that you need to insure your portfolio to be inflation and cash proof? Now, let's get some basics right first, okay? As the interest rates are rising, your serviceability or your borrowing capacity or the money that the bank is going to lend you reduces every time the rate goes up. Now, the investors falling interest only strategy should know that there would be a time where these loans would switch to principal and interest. Thus, in order to go back to principal and only loans, your serviceability will need to be assessed by the banks again. Now, if you don't have enough serviceability or you're at the cusp of, reaching the cap of the serviceability, or you don't have enough cash flows, the bank would not let you go back to the interest only loans. And that puts you in a cash flow strained position. Now, let's understand this with an example, okay? So imagine there's a person, let's call it person A, with 3 properties in a principal place of residence. Now, we are not going to talk about principal place of residence at this stage. We're just going to talk about 3 investment properties. Assume that their overall portfolio is super positive cash flow at 6% yield. And you'll hear people talking about hooly hooves, 6% yield, that's great, inflation proof, cash proof. So let's look at the overall investment portfolio at 80% LVR. Now, the portfolio, let's assume, has a valuation of, say, 3 million. So at 2.56 million debt, at a 3% rate, the repayments would be about $6,400. Okay, now 2% rate rise means that their interest rate at 5% goes to, or the repayments at 5% goes to about $10,700 for interest-only loans. Now, if this loan moves to a principal and interest loan, the repayments go to $13,700 per month. Now, let's assume that both of these scenarios happen, which is, number one, the interest rate rises to 5%, which is very unlikely, which is very likely, not unlikely, very likely in today's times, and the loans switch to principal and interest. Now, again, this would happen to a lot of people in the next year where people are sitting on interest-only loans for a couple of years. That's an extra $7,300 per month, which means an extra $87,600 a year in extra repayments. Now, even if the properties are yielding 6% yield, the negative cash flow on these properties, because you are refinancing and you're using, cash outs and offsets from one property to fund the other properties, would sit around $15,000, roughly about $15,000. Now, let's assume a vacancy rate, at least say 5% vacancies, which is quite normal, as, tenants are transitioning. That's an extra $30,000 on total in net disposable income required. What does that mean on the gross? It means an extra $40,000 gross income that you would require in 1 year, even if we assume that you're on a 30% tax bracket. Okay. Now, we haven't even taken into account principal place of residence or the personal mortgages here. And because that complicates this even further. So what do you do in these circumstances, and how do you ensure the properties are actually inflation proof? Okay. So there are 3 mechanisms in place, and I'll talk about one of them, each of them, and discuss them a bit in detail. So number one, having properties with multiple exit strategies, aka we talk about development potential properties, is quite the key. It's primary when it comes to, creating a sustainable property portfolio. What that means is, number one, you can manufacture your own equity at your own pretense, at your own peril, through properties with subdivision potential. Okay, you can reduce your serviceability at any given point in time and provide buffer to absorbing these transitioning loans. Okay, and number 3, you can basically generate more yields by repurposing these houses, adding grannies at the back, changing at the back, changing the configuration of the house. I was talking to a person last week, where he was changing a 4-bedroom, 1-bathroom to a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, adding an extra $100 per week into his tenancy, repurposing houses to rooming houses, co-living spaces, etc. So it gives you that flexibility of making all of that happen, if you have properties with multiple exit strategies and you're not just chasing yields and growth at the same time. Okay. Now, number 2, having access to equity by following an offset strategy. So an offset strategy is all about riding the wave and having access to your own manufactured equity at your own peril or at your own time that can provide the cash flow to your portfolio. And number 3, which is very, very important, I keep harping about it, is follow a property acquisition strategy. Don't just follow people blindly. Don't just do stuff blindly. This means that, people who have low yielding properties, even their portfolios can be protected and still can survive this high interest rate wave. Now, thank you for listening to me today. Do let me know, do provide some content, some feedback about how do you find us? Are you liking the content? Do you agree with some of the things that we are talking about here? Thank you for listening to me today. Take care. Enjoy your day.